Chapter 2. The drive back to Forks was no easier. Emmett drove at the speed limit, aware of the heavier weekend traffic and the need to remain inconspicuous. I realized I was grinding my teeth in frustration when I felt a gentle calm wash over me and heard Jasper's compassionate thoughts. "I was just as nervous before I married Alice, if you'll remember. It's one of those bizarre human emotions that make little sense to our kind, so it's even harder for us to process. It's going to be just fine." I nodded, grateful, but unable to pull together a smile. It seemed like my light-hearted moment of joy had disappeared as soon as we descended below the clouds. When I was shut off from the sun, darker thoughts invaded my mind. What I was experiencing was so much worse than nervousness. I was excited and exhilarated, but I couldn't stop hundreds of other thoughts from filtering through my mind. As we drew closer to home and the hour of the wedding, one picture kept creeping back to me with a persistence that was deeply disturbing: the anguished face of Jacob Black. With it came the heartrending memory of watching Bella cry herself sick the night she said goodbye to him. Would he be there tonight? Did he even receive the invitation and the letter I wrote? Did I truly want him to come? When I considered the joy and relief Bella would feel if he did show up, I knew my answer was yes. But the answer did little to stop the nagging sense of jealousy and pain that always accompanied any thoughts of my former rival. It was lunchtime when we finally turned onto the 3-mile drive that led up to our house. Somehow, since we had left the night before, Alice and Esme had strung thousands of twinkling lights around the trees lining the road. Even with vampire speed and agility, it was an impressive feat. White satin bows glowed regally at frequent intervals. The effect was stunning, like traveling through a starlit tunnel, even though it was still midday. I jumped impatiently from the moving vehicle as Emmett pulled around to the garage on the north end of the house. I cast around, sensing the minds of my family around me, before I sped across the open lawn and entered the house. The heady scent of orange blossoms, roses, lilacs, and freesia billowed around me. I was enchanted by the transformation that had taken place in my absence. I stood for a moment, dazed, just taking it all in. All of the furniture had been removed from the living room. Rows of chairs draped in satin flanked the center aisle, down which a simple rose-colored carpet ran, the color of Bella's blush. A canopy of gossamer and intricately woven flowers hung over the assembled chairs. At the far end of the aisle, a bridal arch, also dripping in fragrant blossoms, marked the blessed spot where we would make our vows to each other. My precious piano, glistening with polish, occupied its elevated platform in the rear left corner. The lid was raised halfway, the perfect position to fill the room with its mellow resonance. Rosalie's sheet music was neatly laid out, marked with her notes and personal embellishments. Like a magnetic force, my eyes were pulled back to the front of the room again. I envisioned us standing there, without another soul in the room, speaking those words of love and commitment. I forced my mind to rewind the scene, my heart aching as Bella retreated from my side, back to the base of the stairs. My feet were unconsciously drawn to those stairs. Alice's musical voice carried clearly from upstairs, but the thing controlling my movements, that sucked me in, was the rhythmic beating of a human heart. My Bella. "Don't even think about going upstairs, Edward. Alice will have your head," Rosalie threatened. I stopped in my tracks, bemused. I had not heard her approach. Her voice was cold, but I sensed the affection in her thoughts. For all her criticism and anger at what Bella was choosing, she was happy for us. Rosalie was gorgeous, even more so than usual. Her figure was sheathed in a silver floor-length gown. She was not wearing her wedding band, of course, but her wrists and neck were adorned with flawless pink diamonds, set in the shape of roses, Carlisle and Esme's wedding gift when she and Emmett were first married. She carried herself with pride, conscious of her stunning beauty. Her long golden hair was twisted and coiled into a classic coiffure that bore an obvious resemblance to a royal crown. Subtle, I thought sardonically. Emmett was going to be stunned senseless when he saw her. "I wouldn't think of it," I responded to her threat with a grin and a shrug, choosing instead to find Esme. The time would pass more quickly with something constructive to do, and I knew my mother would have plenty to keep me busy. I paused as I stepped outside into the backyard. Part of a video from a recent biology class popped into my mind. Time-lapse photography. I chuckled as I thought of how this scene would appear to a human. Esme and Carlyle flitting from place to place, erecting the white canopy tent, hanging ribbons, streamers, and flowers according to Alice's detailed sketch. The only thing that would indicate otherwise was the absence of changing light and flickering shadows. I crossed to the table where her directions lay, scanned them quickly, and began twisting the piles of white flowers into garlands, for Esme to hang around the perimeter of the tent. "Edward, put that down. You shouldn't be decorating for your own wedding reception," Esme called out in shocked disapproval. I laughed and shook my head, but I didn't drop the garland. Ivy, white rose, freesia. Ivy, white rose, freesia. My movements were automatic. My fingers were a blur as they braided the ribbon and stems flawlessly. Apparently Alice has already banned me from the house, and you'll know I'll go mad with nothing to do. "Sweetheart, please." Her hands rested gently on mine. I raised my eyes to see her loving eyes pleading with me. "Why don't you spend some time at your piano? I would love to hear you play." "Mother, you know that's Rose's territory today. I just really want to keep myself occupied for the next 2 hours. Surely there's something you need help with." Carlyle appeared at my side and placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "Esme, if this is what helps him order his thoughts, how can we argue? We're happy to have your help and company, son." He squeezed my shoulder once before returning to his work, laying down the interlocking panels of the hardwood dance floor. Esme embraced me then. "I am grateful for the help. I just didn't want you to feel obligated to be out here if there was somewhere else you'd rather be." Through Rosalie's eyes, I watched Emmett's jaw drop to his chest when he entered the house and saw her. Rosalie was very pleased with his reaction, preening under his adoring gaze. Jasper was uncomfortable, assaulted by the force of their raw attraction. He was relieved when Rosalie asked him to take her car to pick up Bella's mother and Phil from their hotel. "No, I think it's best if I just stay away from trouble out here." Esme rested her hand softly against the side of my face, and a sweet smile lit up her countenance. "Stay if you wish. You know I cherish this time with you, and I will miss you terribly. But I am so overjoyed for you and Bella. From the very beginning, when you first confessed your love for Bella, I knew this day would come. And now that it's here, I can't express just how happy it makes me to see you two together. No mother has ever been happier for her son, or more satisfied that he has found the perfect woman. You deserve one another, and I never believed that I would meet the woman who is worthy of loving you. Oh, Edward, I almost wish I could cry." My throat was tight as I drew her into a close hug. Her profession of love for Bella and unconditional approval of our union was heartfelt. I was just glad and humbled that seeking my own happiness had brought my mother so much joy and satisfaction. We broke apart and continued our separate tasks, but we both had smiles on our faces. Carlyle and Esme traded a wordless look, and his lips turned into a small grin. They were remembering their own wedding. I sighed as I saw the tranquil joy they shared in loving thoughts and sweet memories. Jasper, on his way back out to the garage, felt it too, joining our simple communion with his own feelings of joy, encouragement, and brotherly approval. Emmett sauntered outside moments later, and I heard Rosalie's offer to style Bella's hair. The image of Bella's profile in her mind was enough to still my hands for a moment. Alice sent a pointed thought at me when I even considered going upstairs. I shook my head, refocusing my thoughts. The minutes flew by faster than I could have hoped. We were putting the finishing touches on the outdoor reception area when I heard Rosalie's car turning off the highway. Moments later, another car followed. Bella's mother would be here in minutes, and the other guests would be trickling in for the next hour. I flitted up to my room to change, overly conscious of Alice's bedroom door shut tightly with my sisters and Bella talking and preparing inside.